Hello. I met Claire on a warm September evening at a friend's party. It was one of those casual gatherings where everyone knew someone, but not everyone knew each other. I wasn't expecting much, just a few drinks, some small talk, and an early night. But then I saw her. She wasn't the loudest or the most outgoing person in the room, but something about her drew my attention. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, with a quiet confidence that made it seem like she belonged anywhere. Or maybe it was her eyes, sharp and full of life, like she saw things others missed. We ended up talking for hours that night, completely forgetting about the party around us. She was quick-witted and had a way of making even the simplest conversations feel interesting. I remember asking her what she did for work, and she rolled her eyes playfully before saying, "Marketing," which basically means I convince people to want things they don't need. I laughed. "And you enjoy that?" She grinned. "I enjoy being good at it." That was Claire, ambitious, sharp, and always a step ahead. From that night on, everything between us just felt easy. Our first date was at a tiny Italian restaurant she claimed had the best pasta in the city. Our second date turned into an all-night conversation at a coffee shop that stayed open until sunrise. Within months, we were inseparable. I think what I loved most about her was the way she made life feel exciting. She had a way of turning even the most mundane moments into something memorable. A trip to the grocery store became a game of guessing which checkout line would move the fastest. A lazy Sunday afternoon turned into an impromptu road trip just because she wanted to see what was at the end of a road we'd never taken. 2 years after we met, I proposed. Nothing extravagant, just the two of us on a quiet evening, the city lights glowing in the distance. She said yes before I could even finish my speech. We got married in a small but beautiful ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. And just like that, we started our life together, full of dreams, plans, and the kind of love that made everything feel possible. At the time, I thought we were unstoppable. Married life with Claire was everything I had hoped for. We weren't the kind of couple who had dramatic fights or grand gestures. We just fit. Life with her was natural, like two puzzle pieces that had always belonged together. We bought a modest but beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. Claire had an eye for design, so she took charge of decorating, filling our home with warm colors, soft lighting, and personal touches that made it feel uniquely ours. Every time I stepped inside, it felt like a place I wanted to stay forever. Our careers were both moving forward at a steady pace. I worked in finance, climbing the corporate ladder with long hours and steady promotions. Claire, on the other hand, thrived in marketing. She was smart, creative, and persuasive, the kind of person who could sell water to a fish if she wanted to. I admired her drive. She had this way of walking into a room and making people pay attention, not because she demanded it, but because she knew exactly how to carry herself. Despite our busy schedules, we always made time for each other. Friday nights were our sacred tradition, whether it was a dinner date at our favorite restaurant, a movie night at home, or just sitting on our back porch talking about everything and nothing. We laughed a lot. Even after years together, she still found ways to surprise me, to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. Weekends were spent exploring new places, trying out new hobbies, or just being lazy together. Claire loved hiking, so every few weeks, we'd find a new trail to explore. I wasn't as adventurous as she was, but I loved watching her light up when we reached the top of a hill and looked out at the view. We talked about starting a family someday. It wasn't an immediate plan, but it was something we both saw in our future. We imagined what our kids might look like, what kind of parents we would be, and how our lives would change. At the time, it all felt so far away, like a chapter of our story that we'd get to when the time was right. Looking back now, I realize how much I took those moments for granted. How I assumed that happiness, once found, was something that would last forever. But for now, in this part of our story, everything was perfect. The years passed in a comfortable rhythm. Claire and I had built something solid, something I thought was unshakable. She thrived in her career, earning promotions and making a name for herself in the industry. I loved seeing her succeed. She had this way of talking about her work with such passion, and I could listen to her for hours as she recounted meetings, ideas, and the challenges she faced. It made me proud to see her accomplish everything she set her mind to. My own career was steady. Finance wasn't the most exciting field, but it gave us security, and that was all I ever wanted. Our home was no longer just a house. It was filled with memories, laughter, and the quiet, unspoken understanding that we were building a life together, one ordinary day at a time. We traveled when we could, though Claire always wanted to see more. She had a restless spirit, always eager to explore new places, meet new people, try new things. I was the opposite. I liked routine, predictability, knowing what to expect. But somehow, we balanced each other. She pulled me out of my comfort zone, and I grounded her when she needed it. Our friends often commented on how perfect we were together. We hosted dinner parties, went on double dates, and played the role of the happy, successful couple that everyone admired. And for a long time, I believed that too. If someone had asked me back then what my biggest fear was, I probably would have said something about losing my job, or maybe a health scare. The thought of losing Claire, of our marriage unraveling, never even crossed my mind. We had been together for nearly 8 years, married for 5. At that point, we knew each other's habits, quirks, and routines like second nature. I could predict the way she'd hum when she was lost in thought, or how she'd play with her hair when she was lying about something small, like forgetting to do the laundry. I thought I knew everything about her. I thought we were unbreakable. But looking back now, I can see it. The small shifts, the subtle changes, the moments that should have made me stop and wonder. I didn't know it yet, but the foundation we had built was already beginning to crack. It started with small things, little details that didn't add up, moments that felt off but were easy to dismiss. Claire had always been busy with work, but lately, it seemed like she was busier than ever. Late meetings, weekend networking events, sudden business trips that hadn't been mentioned before. At first, I didn't question it. She was ambitious, always striving for more. It was one of the things I loved about her. But then, I started noticing other things. She was glued to her phone more than usual. Claire had never been the type to be secretive. We used to scroll through each other's phones without a second thought. But now, she kept it close, even taking it with her to the bathroom. If I so much as glanced at her screen, she tilted away. Then there was the way she started dressing. Claire had always taken care of her appearance, but now it was different. She bought new clothes, tighter dresses, expensive lingerie I hadn't seen her wear at home. She started putting more effort into her makeup, even on days when she was supposedly working from home. One night, I casually asked, "Who are you dressing up for?" with a teasing smile. She laughed, rolling her eyes. Myself. Can't a woman feel good about how she looks? I had no reason to argue with that, so I let it go. But the biggest shift was how she acted around me. It wasn't that she was distant. If anything, she was more affectionate than usual. Almost too affectionate. She would kiss me more, send me random texts during the day, tell me she missed me even when we had only been apart for a few hours. It felt forced, like she was trying too hard to prove something. The intimacy between us changed too. It was sporadic. Some nights, she was all over me, almost desperate. Other nights, she turned away, claiming exhaustion. It was unpredictable, and that's what unsettled me. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was overthinking, being paranoid. But doubt, once planted, grows like a weed. One evening, Claire came home late, much later than usual. I was sitting on the couch, watching TV, when she walked in. Her hair was slightly messy, and I swear I could smell a faint trace of cologne that wasn't mine. Long day? I asked, keeping my tone casual. She sighed, dropping her bag by the door. Yeah. The meeting ran over, and then we grabbed drinks afterward. I nodded, pretending to focus on the show. But inside, something twisted in my gut. She went to shower almost immediately, and for the first time, I had the overwhelming urge to check her phone. I fought it. I wasn't that kind of husband. I trusted Claire. But that night, as I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something had changed. And I was going to find out what. Doubt is a disease. It starts small, just a nagging thought in the back of your mind. But once it takes root, it spreads, filling every quiet moment, every empty space, until it's all you can think about. And lately, that doubt had become impossible to ignore. Claire was different. Not in any obvious way. Not in a way that I could point to and say, "This is it. This is the proof." But she was different. She had always been busy with work, but now, it felt like she was too busy. Late meetings. Weekend outings. Nights where she came home with that tired but excited energy, like she had been somewhere thrilling, somewhere she wanted to be. Then there was her phone. It was always close, always face down. She used to leave it lying around without a second thought. Now, if I so much as glanced at the screen, she'd tilt it away. One night, she was in the shower, and her phone lit up on the nightstand beside me. A message flashed across the screen, just a preview. Not a name I recognized, just a number. But the words made my stomach twist. "I can't wait." Counting down the days, smiley face. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. My fingers itched to pick it up, to scroll through her messages, to know. But I didn't. Because once you go looking for the truth, you have to be ready to find it. Instead, I waited. A few days later, Claire mentioned something over dinner that made my pulse spike. "I'm going on a trip next week," she said casually, twirling her fork through her pasta. "Just a little getaway with the girls. We've been planning it for months." I kept my face neutral. "Oh yeah? Where to?" She hesitated, just for a second, before answering. "Spain. Spain." That was the destination I had seen on her laptop screen. She hadn't mentioned this trip before. Not once. "That sounds nice," I said, forcing a smile. "When are you leaving?" "Friday morning. I'll be gone for a week." "A week? An entire week?" I nodded, chewing slowly, trying to act like this was normal. Like my wife hadn't just revealed she had made international travel plans without telling me. I wanted to ask more, who she was going with, why she hadn't mentioned it earlier, but I knew I had to be careful. If I pushed too hard, she'd see the suspicion in my eyes. So I played along. I told her it sounded great. I asked about the weather, the food, the beaches. I pretended I wasn't already planning how I was going to find out the truth. That night, as Claire slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Something was wrong. And by the time she got on that plane, I was going to know exactly what it was. The week leading up to Claire's trip felt like a slow, agonizing countdown. I watched her closely, paying attention to every detail. She was excited, too excited. She talked about the beaches, the food, how much she needed this break. I played my part perfectly. I asked about her plans, about the friends she was supposedly going with, and I nodded along like the trusting husband I was supposed to be. But inside, my mind was racing. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't have the proof. The night before she left, I sat on the bed watching her pack. She folded each dress neatly, arranging them carefully in her suitcase. There were new clothes I hadn't seen before, short, summery outfits, silk lingerie that didn't seem like something she'd wear on a girl's trip. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "So, who's going again?" She didn't even glance up. "Lisa, Emma, and Sophie." I nodded. Claire had always been close with them, but something about the way she answered felt off. Too rehearsed. Like she had been preparing for this conversation. "You'll send me pictures?" I asked casually. She smirked. "Of course." The next morning, I drove her to the airport. She kissed me goodbye, holding on for just a second too long, like she was trying to convince herself of something. "Love you," she said softly. I forced myself to smile. "Love you too." I watched her walk through the security line, disappearing into the crowd. And then I got to work. As soon as I got home, I pulled out my laptop and started searching. I went through our shared accounts, looking for confirmation of the flight. She had deleted the booking email from her inbox, but she wasn't careful enough. Her airline points account still showed the reservation. Spain. A 5-star resort. But something was missing. There were no extra names on the booking, just hers. No sign of her friends. No group package. Just a single luxury suite for one. My hands tightened into fists. She had lied to me. The question was, why? And I was going to find out. The house felt eerily silent after Claire left. It was strange how quickly her presence disappeared, how the energy of our home shifted the moment she walked out that door. But I wasn't sitting around wallowing. I had a mission now. I needed answers. I spent the first few hours combing through everything: bank statements, email accounts, travel logs, anything that might tell me what was really going on. But Claire was smart. There was barely a trace of anything suspicious, almost like she had planned for this moment. The only real proof I had so far was the single luxury suite she had booked for herself. That alone didn't mean she was cheating, but combined with all the other signs, it was enough to keep my mind spinning. And then I saw it. Her laptop. Claire was always careful with her phone, always tilting it away or keeping it face down. But her laptop was another story. It sat on the desk in our shared home office, completely unguarded, like a door left slightly ajar, just waiting to be opened. She must have assumed I wouldn't snoop. Maybe she thought I was too trusting. Maybe she thought I wouldn't have the guts. She was wrong. My hands were almost shaking as I powered it on. The desktop loaded instantly, no password. That was the first mistake she made. The second mistake was even worse. A folder sat right there on the screen, tucked away in a corner, named something so innocuous that most people wouldn't even think to open it. Work docs. But I wasn't most people. I clicked. And that was when my world shattered. Videos. Dozens of them. Each one with a timestamp. Each one from different dates, spanning back months. I clicked on the most recent one, and my stomach dropped the second it started playing. There she was, my wife, the woman I had spent nearly a decade of my life loving, trusting, building a future with. She wasn't in Spain. She wasn't even with her friends. She was in a dimly lit hotel room, laughing as she set up the camera on a nightstand. And then, seconds later, he appeared. A man I didn't recognize. Younger than me. Fit. The kind of guy Claire would have rolled her eyes at years ago. Too cocky, too smug. And yet, there she was, pulling him into her arms like he was the only thing in the world that mattered. I should have stopped watching. I should have slammed the laptop shut and thrown it across the room. But I couldn't. I sat there, frozen, as the video played, as my wife did things for him that she hadn't done for me in years. She smiled in a way she didn't smile at me anymore. She laughed in a way that wasn't forced, wasn't careful. And that was what hurt the most. Not the sex, not the betrayal, but the happiness. She was happy with him. I didn't even realize I had stopped breathing until the video ended, the screen fading to black. My heart pounded in my ears, a dull, deafening thud that drowned out everything else. My hands were clenched so tightly into fists that my nails dug into my palms, but I barely felt it. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't some drunken one-night stand, some heat-of-the-moment lapse in judgment. This was planned, thought out, filmed, and it had been going on for months. I closed the folder, my entire body shaking with rage. My marriage had been over long before I ever suspected it. I had been a fool, playing the role of the trusting husband while my wife was busy making memories with someone else. But she had made a mistake. She had left her laptop behind. And now, it was my turn to take control. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the screen, my mind racing through every possible reaction I could have. Yelling, crying, destroying everything in the house that reminded me of her. But in the end, I felt nothing. Just a cold, calculated clarity. Claire thought she had won. She thought she had gotten away with it. But she had made a mistake. She had left her life in my hands. I took a deep breath, my hands steady as I pulled out my phone and logged into our shared bank account. Claire and I had always kept our finances together. Something she had once said was a sign of trust. Funny, considering how little she had given me in return. I blocked all of her credit cards. Every single one. Debit, credit, even her emergency savings account that she kept in case of unexpected situations. Well, this was unexpected, wasn't it? I left just enough in her personal account for a meal or two. Just enough to let the reality sink in. Then, I turned my attention to our home. Claire had always been sentimental about her things. The jewelry I had gifted her, the expensive handbag she had carefully collected over the years, the framed pictures of us that once meant something. I gathered them all. Every last item. The wedding dress she had kept boxed in the closet, the anniversary gifts I had spent months choosing, the little notes and trinkets that she had claimed were so special. And I threw them out. Every single thing. The jewelry? Pawned. The gifts? Dumped. The wedding dress? Shredded beyond recognition before I tossed it in the trash. Our home was going to be purged of her. I moved through the house like a ghost, clearing out every trace of her existence. The clothes she had left behind? Gone. The perfume bottle on the dresser? Smashed. The spare key she had hidden under the flower pot? Bent until it was useless. By the time I was done, it was as if she had never lived there at all. And then, the final blow. I took Claire's laptop, the evidence, and made a backup of everything. Every video, every message, every disgusting, heart-wrenching detail. I wasn't planning to release it, not yet, but she needed to know that I had it. That she couldn't lie, couldn't manipulate, couldn't talk her way out of this. With that done, I picked up my phone and sent her a message. Just 4 words. Hope you're enjoying Spain. I could imagine the confusion on her face when she saw it. The brief flicker of doubt. And then, as she tried to use her card for a drink, for a cab, for her flight home, the panic. Because she wasn't coming home. Not yet. Not ever, if I had anything to say about it. She was stranded. Penniless. Alone. In a country where I had just cut off every lifeline she thought she had. She wanted an escape? A little adventure? Well, she just got one. And I had never felt so satisfied in my life. The first few hours were quiet. Too quiet. I knew Claire must have seen my message by now, but there was no response. No frantic explanation, no weak attempt at damage control. Maybe she thought ignoring it would make it go away. Maybe she assumed she could smooth things over when she got back. But then, the call started. Her name lit up my screen over and over again, but I let it ring. I could picture her face, the way her confident little smirk must have twisted into frustration, then worry. Still, I didn't answer. Then came the texts. Claire, what does that mean? Hope you're enjoying Spain? Claire, babe, I just tried to use my card and it's saying there's an issue. Can you check? Claire, this isn't funny. My card was declined at the hotel. I had to pay with the little cash I brought. Call me now. I smiled. The panic was setting in. Good. But she wasn't done yet. Claire, what the hell is going on? I can't access my bank account. Did something happen? Claire, answer me. I let her stew in silence. If she was smart, she'd realize exactly what was happening. But Claire had never thought I was capable of something like this. She had spent months, maybe years, deceiving me, probably assuming I'd be too blind or too weak to ever fight back. She was wrong. It took another hour before the messages changed. The anger, the confusion, it all crumbled, replaced by desperation. Claire, please, baby, just talk to me. I don't know what's happening. Claire, I can't get a flight home. My card won't work. I have no money left. Claire, I swear I'll explain everything. Just tell me what to do. Please. I finally picked up my phone and typed a single message. Me, I already know everything. 3 dots appeared immediately, like she had been waiting for me to respond. Then, her reply. Claire, no, you don't. Let me explain. Please, just talk to me. I scoffed. Explain? What was there to explain? The months of secret meetings? The fake girls' trip? The videos she had so carelessly left behind? I thought about making her beg, about drawing it out just to watch her squirm. But I didn't need an explanation. I didn't need any more of her lies. So I sent her one last message. Me, find your own way home. Then, I blocked her number. Let her sweat. Let her feel the weight of what she had done. For the first time since this nightmare began, I was the one in control. And I wasn't going to let her forget it. For 3 days, Claire was trapped. She must have gone through every emotion possible: anger, panic, desperation. She probably begged the hotel to let her stay longer, tried using every bit of charm and manipulation she had. But charm doesn't pay the bills, and manipulation only works when you have leverage. She had none. Eventually, she must have found some way to get home. Maybe she called one of her friends. Maybe she begged her parents for help. Maybe she had to sell something just to afford a flight. It didn't matter. Because no matter how she managed to crawl her way back, she was coming home to nothing. The day she finally returned, I was waiting. I didn't pick her up from the airport, of course. I didn't even check when her flight landed. But I knew she was coming back. I knew she'd show up here, to the house she still thought of as hers, expecting to cry her way back into my good graces. She had no idea what was waiting for her. I was sitting on the couch when I heard her key scrape uselessly against the lock. She tried again. And again. Then, there was a pause. She must have realized what had happened. I heard a knock. Then another. Then pounding. I stood up and slowly made my way to the door, pausing for a moment before unlocking it. When I opened it, there she was. Claire looked like hell. Her hair was a mess, her clothes wrinkled, her face tired and pale. The same woman who had left for her girls' trip, glowing with excitement, now looked like she had been dragged through the dirt. I could tell she hadn't slept much, and for the first time in our entire marriage, she looked truly helpless. Hey, she said, her voice soft, almost small. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. Lose something. Her eyes flicked past me, toward the house, and she froze. The place was bare. Everything she had left behind, her clothes, her jewelry, the little trinkets she had collected over the years, gone. The pictures of us? Gone. The wedding gifts? Gone. There was nothing left of her in this house. She let out a shaky breath. Where is my stuff? I got rid of it. My voice was calm. Even. I wanted to see her reaction. I wanted to watch it sink in. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked back at me, her expression a mix of shock, anger, and disbelief. You threw away my things? Donated. Trashed. Sold. Didn't really keep track. I shrugged. Didn't seem like you'd need them anymore. Her breath hitched. Baby, please. Just let me come in. Let's talk. I let out a laugh. A real, genuine laugh. Talk? You want to talk now? She swallowed hard. I know what you think, but I swear, it's not what it looks like. I messed up, but I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. I shook my head, disgusted. I know exactly what it is, Claire. I saw everything. Her face drained of color. What do you mean? I stepped forward, lowering my voice. I saw everything. She blinked rapidly, her breathing shallow. Why you went through my things? You left your laptop open, I said simply. You left a neat little folder full of videos and messages you were too careless to delete. You didn't even bother hiding it. I tilted my head, watching her fall apart in real time. Tell me, Claire, was I supposed to find it? Were you just waiting for me to catch on? She stumbled back, shaking her head. I don't know what you saw, but it's not what you think. I stepped closer. Don't lie to me. You're not getting out of this. You planned this. For months. While I was here, being the perfect husband, you were out screwing some guy in hotel rooms. Tears welled in her eyes. I was stupid, okay? It was a mistake. But I love you. I never stopped loving you. I laughed bitterly. You don't love me, Claire. You love what I gave you. You loved having a husband who paid for everything, who supported you, who trusted you. I leaned in slightly, just enough to make sure she felt the weight of my words. But you don't get that anymore. You don't get me anymore. Her hands trembled as she reached out, desperate. Please. Just give me one chance to fix this. I exhaled slowly, then looked her straight in the eye. No. She froze. No second chances. No explanations. No fixing this. My voice was steady, final. I already filed for divorce. The paperwork will be served soon. Whatever happens to you after this. Not my problem. The silence stretched between us. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I could see the exact moment she realized this wasn't a fight she could win. I stepped back inside and grabbed the door. This was your choice, Claire. I looked at her one last time, then click. I shut the door in her face. And for the first time in months, I felt free. The silence after I shut the door was deafening. I stood there for a moment, listening. I half expected Claire to start pounding on the door again, to scream, to beg. But she didn't. After a few seconds, I heard a choked sob. Then footsteps. Then silence. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. She wasn't my concern anymore. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the fool who trusted blindly. I wasn't the husband who ignored the signs. I wasn't the man who sacrificed everything for someone who had already moved on from me. I was free. Claire tried to reach out a few more times in the following weeks. She emailed me, messaged me from different numbers, even showed up outside my workplace once. But I ignored all of it. I never answered, never gave her even a sliver of hope that things could be repaired. The divorce papers were served 2 weeks later. She didn't contest anything. She had no choice. Without joint finances, without the security of our home, she was left scrambling to piece together a life she had never expected to be living alone. I found out later that the guy from the videos, the one she had risked everything for, was just another temporary thrill. He didn't stick around. Whatever fantasy she had built in her mind about a new life, about excitement and passion, had crumbled the moment reality set in. As for me, I moved on. I sold the house, the one that had once been ours but never really felt like home after what she had done. I moved into a new apartment across the city, one where every room was mine and mine alone. A fresh start. A blank slate. At first, I wasn't sure what to do with myself. For so long, my life had revolved around Claire, around our marriage, around the illusion that we were happy. Now, I was forced to live for myself. And slowly, I learned how. I started working out again, something I had let slide in the years of comfortable routine. I reconnected with old friends, people I had distanced myself from because I had been too focused on being a good husband. I traveled, not far, not extravagant, just places I had always wanted to see but never did because we had always compromised on what Claire wanted instead. And one day, I woke up and realized. I felt nothing for her anymore. No anger. No pain. No regret. Just nothing. She was just someone I used to know. It's strange how much can change in a year. Looking back, I don't even recognize the man I was before all of this. The man who ignored the red flags. The man who doubted his own instincts because he wanted to believe in his wife. The man who thought love was enough to keep someone loyal. Now, I see things differently. I see people differently. I trust, but not blindly. I love, but not foolishly. And most importantly, I know my worth. I ran into Claire once, about a year after everything. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some climactic confrontation. It was just a moment. She looked different. Not bad, not good, just different. The spark, the confidence she once carried so effortlessly, was gone. She saw me, hesitated, then gave me a small, uncertain smile. "Hey," she said softly. I nodded. That's all she got. Then I walked away. Because Claire was my past. And my future? It was all mine. Bye-bye.